brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Joey boys. This time, I know you go yours, big skies go, and the waves of rain. Oh, purple mountain majesty above the plain. America, America, God shedding grace on thee, and crowned thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. All right, thank you very much. Now I actually start the service. This is something that came up.
No, yeah, this one. Okay. I'm cheering. You here for the weekend? Yeah. I came in Wednesday. I'll head back Wednesday. Came in for a little bit of a break and see my son.
Worry about all the things that will not happen to me. So I just let go what I know I don't know, and I know I only do this by living in the moment, living my life, easy and breezy, with peace of my mind, with peace of my heart, and peace of my soul. Where I'm going, I'm already home, living in the moment. I laid myself off the hook for all the things that I've done. I let my past go past. Now I'm having more fun. I'm letting go of thoughts that do not make me strong. I believe this way will be the same for everyone. And if I fall asleep, I know you'll be the one to always remind me. Living in the moment, drinking, live my life, easy and breezy, with peace of my mind. I am peace of my soul, not peace of my soul. Where I'm going, I'm already home. Till I can walk through life, facing backwards. I have tried more than once to just make sure that I was denied the moment I was searching for. So I spun around and heard no more. By living in the moment, living my life, easy and breezy, with peace of my mind. I have peace of my heart, got peace of my soul. Where I'm going, I'm already home. living in the moment. Oh, I'm living in the moment. Living in the moment.
So I'm so glad you're spending this moment with us here at Unity. You could be headed to the lake, you could be headed to the barbecue. Here you are. Now, in fact, we do have a potluck afterwards with a lot of good fried chicken and stuff, so stay tuned for that. But we're just so glad you're here with us at Unity today. It's Memorial Day, and prayer will take some things to remembrance. And we have Joy Caffrey with us here from Fayetteville. And she's been here many times doing workshops. And she's certainly one of my really good friends. And she's a good friend to Unity. And I've already kind of heard a preview, but I'm telling you, it's going to be a really good lesson today. So, right now, let's greet each other. And
Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Things are gonna work out fine if you only will. Oh, shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Things are gonna work out fine if you only will. Well, you can run, but you cannot hide. This is widely known. Now what you plan to do with your foolish pride, all by yourself alone? Once you tell somebody the way that you feel, you can feel it beginning to be. I think it's true what they say about this we always getting the dream. Oh, shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Things are gonna work out fine if you only will. Oh, shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Things are gonna work out fine if you only will. Oh, shower the people you love with love. Show them the way must fall. Things are just like pouring fire if you only will. Oh, shower the people you love with love. Show them the way you feel. Things are so work out fine if you only will. Make it rain. Oh, shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Things are gonna work out fine if you only will.
so, I love that you picked that song because I'm going to turn the remembrance of today, not just focused on those that have served us in armed forces, but just anyone that has served us in our life. So that's very appropriate. And as we begin to come to that point, remember the Christ candle. It's a symbol of the Christ candle that's alive and lit in you, the bright light. And then also in Unity we have our daily word. Oh,
I forgot to go back and catch it.
it's silence today, actually, and I didn't bring it up with me, I didn't look at it. In Unity we go into the silence to remember. We're going to have a little bit of that up here today. And then we also have our statement of being. So let's claim that together. I am an individualized expression of God. I am the one for whose perfect life service, if anyone would need to pray with me. And then also, we have our prayer box up here, and you can take your prayer to the prayer box, and then every month we send it to Silent Community, where it's prayed over up there as well. So, but for right now, let's settle, breathe, relax, and feel the welcome of this space and community. So as we relax, we remember this weekend our family, our loved ones, and all those who may have been on the battlefront. These people have contributed to our safety and our country's well-being. But let's also expand that list to those who played a part in our own lives: families, friends, teachers, acquaintances, maybe even strangers. Let's remember. We give thanks for all the people who contribute to our lives. Today can be a day to think with love and appreciation of the people we see every day, of the people who may be thousands of miles away from us, people in the past, maybe people that just barely touched our lives, anyone who's had an impact on us. Today we give thanks and remember all the people who bring God's love and strength and order to our lives. Now today's type of media would have us remember the dark nights of wars and battles, but in the changeless and enduring love and presence of Spirit, this is a day to remember that the dark night always passes, that there is another dawn. We remember Jesus' words: peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. Not as the world gives do I give to you. Let not your hearts be troubled, neither let them be afraid. Lo, I am with you always. Hear these coming words. Take them to the silence. This is a day to remember that now is the important time. Now is the time to lift up our hearts and thoughts. Now is the time to express love. Now is the time to show a helpful spirit to others. Now is the time to enter the joy of living. So we are grateful and we remember all the people who affect our lives. And we remember our own inner resources: faith, strength, love, power, imagination, understanding, zeal, order, and our own life vitality. We remember constantly. And so it is.
When I was 14, I was following fast forward the right curve in my whole class. Trying to find the curve and ask her out. It was like I would get all over the water spout. But she would have said, I can't say I've never been asked if you moved away. I learned something from my blue-eyed girl. So of course, we all begin to work. Life's a dance, you learn as you go. Sometimes you lead and sometimes you follow. Don't worry about what you don't know. Life's a dance, you learn as you go. The longer I live, the more I believe you have to give if you want to receive. There's some time to listen, time to talk. You might have to crawl, but you can have to walk. seen the long shot wind waves. They knocked down by the swing door, but himself up, coming back home. Lots of dance, where as you go, sometimes you lead and sometimes you follow. Don't worry about it, you don't know. Life's a dance, you learn as you go. Life's a dance. Life's a dance. Life's a dance. Take a chance on something. Life's a dance. You burn as you go. Take a chance on something. Life's a dance. You burn as you go. Oh, life's a dance. Oh, life's a dance.
Some of you already know Joy, but it's my great pleasure to introduce her to a broader audience today on our Sunday celebration. And life's a dance, that's a little phrase that might fit Miss Joy Caffrey. And her name is so appropriate, you guys. And she has the energy of a hummingbird. So,
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'd like to start with an intention that when I do that, it helps me to be in best service to you. So while I'm setting my intention, maybe you can allow your heart to be like a magnet and draw all of yourself to yourself. So we can all be fully present with each other, for each other, so we can enjoy our connection. I set egoic intentions aside and allow myself to open as a vehicle of love and of light. In this moment, I place myself in service to each of you and to the Unity community. And I set the intentions for your highest good and well-being. And I am here to shower you with love. That's what likes to pour out of my heart. Have you ever had an aha moment that got you so excited because you were connecting the dots between unrelated things, and then all of a sudden a new inspiration came? And if maybe not a fully developed inspiration, then one that was stirring and rising. I had one of those last week. God is good. When we have those aha moments, that is divinity working its way into our consciousness. That is the co-creative process at work. Have you ever found something that you didn't even know you lost? Right? That's what this is. This is something that I found that I didn't know I lost, and it absolutely, to me, a representation of the serendipity of the divine working in our lives. My finding this article is for your benefit and behalf. About a year ago, we remodeled our kitchen. So everything in that kitchen, we gutted it to the ground. There was nothing in the room. We remodeled it. And so a week ago, I was cleaning this kitchen desktop, and everything in that kitchen should have been from the last year. And I'm cleaning the desktop. Way on the bottom is this article on procrastination. And I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool. I'm reading it, I'm like, oh, this is really relevant. And then I flip it over, and there's my handwriting on the back of this article. And I'm like, where is this from? Where is this from? Psychology Today, 1982. Where did this article come from? And then I remembered, in college, I went to a little seminar about procrastination. Wow, this article is for us to connect the dots. I'll come back to this one. I'm going to today take some risks, and I'm going to connect the dots between individualism, procrastination, and perfectionism, and then circle around to power, the unity word for this month. Have you ever heard that expression, you just gotta pull yourself up by the bootstraps?
Yeah.
Or have you ever been that type of person that is, if I want to get this done, I have to do it myself? That individualism is really an underlying fabric of our country. And it's an ideology that I want to question in this moment. I want to kind of look at the shadow side of individualism and perfectionism and some of the traits under procrastination. So the last past week, I was reading that article. I was reading this book, White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo. Everyone's here read it yet? I highly recommend it if you haven't. And I'm going to pull out of context something that he says on individualism, and then please read the book and put it back in context. A quote from this book. Briefly, individualism holds that we each are unique and stand apart from others, even those within our social groups. Individualism claims that there is no intrinsic barriers to individual success, and that failure is not a consequence of social structures, but comes from individual character. In this book, he goes to show that, that's not necessarily true, because different social structures actually have different opportunities. And it's one of the blindness to that is one of the things that he talks about in white privilege and white fragility. But I'm pulling that quote out because it also relates to how much of our self-worth has been built on what we produce, what we accomplish. And I want to propose that we are more than what we accomplish. We're more than what we do. In this article on procrastination, this was a study that took place at Berkeley with some of the students over several different a six-week course, and they ran it several times to gather information. One of the things that I thought was interesting about the 6-week course is the students would go through this optimism. Oh yeah, great, I'm gonna just take this 6-week class and get rid of all of my issues on procrastination. And then by week 3 or 4, they were really pessimistic. And then by week 5 and 6, they got a little more realistic. Because what they were learning was procrastination wasn't just based on poor time management. It was some underlying issues that this course helped them to dig up. And I really appreciate realism in the way that when we can accept reality, which we might not like, but when we can accept reality, we can better navigate it. What I also liked about this article is another quote that I'll read from something you didn't order. So the 3 main barriers that keep people stuck in procrastination, and all of them you've heard of: fear of failure, fear of success, and rebellionism. And some of the kids that were procrastinating in this Berkeley course was because they really didn't even want to be in college, right? And so they weren't doing the work because they didn't even want to be there, or they didn't want to be in that major. And I want to take a look at fear of failure and see how it relates to what I was just talking about with individualism. The authors of that article refer to a theory by psychologist Richard Berry, who suggests that people who fear failure have accepted an equation with 3 parts. And see if you can hear the relationship to what I just read to you. They believe that their performance is a reflection of their ability, and that ability is a reflection of self-worth. In other words, my worth as a person is defined by my ability, and my ability is defined by what I produce. So once again, we're kind of tearing into self-worth by making it really narrow and limited to what we accomplish. And what I don't like about that is it's not acknowledging the wholeness of our being. And I want us to build our self-worth on our totality, our authenticity, even our messiness, versus our idealized self, or versus what is expected of us to produce. In Brene Brown's book, Dare to Lead, she has a couple pages on perfectionism. And when I was reading this, things like, oh, my lights are going off. That relates to that, which relates to that, which relates to, ooh, maybe I have something to say at Unity. Brene Brown says, perfectionism at its core is about trying to earn approval. Most perfectionists grew up being praised for achievement and performance, grades, manners, rule following, people pleasing, sports teams. Somewhere along the way, they adopted this dangerous and debilitating belief system. I am what I accomplish. We're seeing a pattern here. And how will I accomplish it? Please, perform, perfect, prove. Healthy striving is self-focused. How can I improve? Versus how do I look at and can I gain approval? And some of our need to gain approval is that desire to belong. We want to belong, but can we choose other strategies to find that sense of connection? Perfectionism is such a trap. And when I read that paragraph, it really stirred something inside of me, because as a parent, I tried hard to encourage my kids versus praise my kids, because I know praise was what would drive them to that. And yet, I did expect them to have good grades. And yet, I did expect them to have good manners. And my oldest daughter struggled with perfectionism. And it pained me to feel that and see that. And how can I support her now? And how can I live that life of really honoring self-worth from our wholeness? In perfectionism, what I notice is people are really striving for that idealized self. And in that idealized self, they're never going to be that because it's idealized. I want us to all be so okay with being our authentic self. There was a quote on Facebook in one of those memes, and it says, perfectionism says you have to do everything right to be loved. Love says you don't have to do anything right to be loved. In fact, I want to be here to tell you, you are loved. And you are loved. Self-worth does not equate to perfection. Self-worth does not equate to people-pleasing. I want to help you reduce your anxiety and your suffering by allowing yourself to move beyond individualism, let go of the perfectionism. Catch yourself when you're getting stuck in fear of failure or fear of success. Now, I want to help us to look at our collective good of how we can support ourselves and each other by looking at our resources. Last week, I also happened to go to a workshop on diversity, and we were looking at microaggressions. Anthony D. Nicola had a workshop called Not in My Workplace, and it was helping us to understand diversity better. And he was going through different scenarios, and we're all learning a bit, and towards the end of the workshop, he was putting out, so what is power? He was coming down to what is power? So before I give you his definition, I just want to have some group participation here and throw out for me, verbally out loud, some either characteristics of power or some of both your conceptions of power, both from that shadow side or the radiant side. What are some ways that you perceive power to be? Courage. Mm-hmm. Control. Say that again. Perspective. Mm-hmm. Choice. Mm-hmm. Confidence. Money. Right. Isn't that always from money in our society? Influence, affluence.
Death.
Say it again.
Death.
Death?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Knowledge.
Say that? Influence, yeah. Influence and affluence, I think of that too, yeah. What I appreciated about Anthony's definition, it was really simple. And it was something I talk about a lot. His definition of power was access to resources. That's simple, access to resources. And I'm often talking to my clients about how they can tap into their inner resources and their outer resources. And I know at Unity, you talk about everything you talk about once a month, right? Those are some inner resources.
Yeah.
The 12 powers, yeah. So let's talk about some of our inner resources. Throw out some inner resources that you're aware of that you know that you can access. Strength, yeah. Creativity. Belief. Yeah. Imagination. Resilience, yeah. Did it okay? Wholeness. I'm going to throw out some that we might often not think of. I think our 8-year-old self is a good resource to have when we tap into our 8-year-old. And the reason I say that is when you're 8 years old, in that, say like in that 6, 7, 8, yeah, you're your most self. And the reason I say that is you're energetically individuating off of your family, your biological parents, and you're not yet in group consciousness. There's that precious little year around 3rd and 4th grade where you're your most self. And then you go into the group consciousness where it depends where you sit at the cafeteria table. Right? But before there's a uniqueness within yourself. And so when you sometimes get stuck of, what do I do next? Tap into that 8-year-old self. Your 8-year-old has some ideas and opinions that are valuable to you. And then another resource that you might not think of is your 88-year-old self. Your 80-year-old self has some perspective. And you can tap into your future self. Once I read a book called A View from 80, and it was really fascinating. I read it when I was in my college years, and it was so insightful of how they looked at their life by decades, and things really had perspective, and it was offering us that tip of when you're getting in a knot about something, remember it's just this little blip in your life. Right? So we have a lot more resources than we realize. And maybe check my list to see what other ones I hadn't thought about. And some of them we've said. So 8-year-old self, 88-year-old self, your insight, your intuition, your dreams, your clarity. I'm going to give an example about clarity. One time I do energy healing work, and a lot of what's in my client's field will come to me, what they're working on. And this is just to show how an inside resource is very real. So I've had my hands on my client, and this is a person I had never met before. They've traveled across the country and just found me, so I really don't know this person, don't know anything about their lives. And the guidance I was giving was to tell this person, you have really been working on clarity, and it's showing clearly. You are getting more and more clear. And she was like, really? Because all month I've been working on clarity, and I changed every one of my passwords to clarity. They were showing up in her mind. The power of words, right? So there's another resource, words. Our words count. Our words have influence. Silence is a beautiful inner resource. Our ability to meditate. How about our sense of humor? Good resource? Helps us can get out of tight situations or nervous situations. Self-care, very overlooked resource. Dancing, process art, creativity in all its forms. And one of the things I liked that Anthony went into about our resources, he broke them down into more categories than I had thought about. So he talked about our personal resources. I'm going to go some examples of these in a second. Our personal, our interpersonal, group resources and institutions, and then intergroup systems. So for example, in our personal resources, the resources outside of ourselves, the roof over our head, our kitchen, our bed. What an incredible resource. What are some other resources do you think of that are personal to you? Your car, right? Gets you to work, gets you to stores.
Your pets.
Your pets.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Your education.
Education.
People we know have information that's helpful.
Yeah, and that moves us into that interpersonal. Yeah, because now we're talking about how can we connect with other people. Like, for instance, after church, there's a potluck, right? You guys are sharing your resources of food. So your interpersonal are your family, your friends, the way that you gather socially and share, whether it's information or resources. And then the group and institutions like a sports team, right? You might get a lot of resource from that sports team by keeping yourself athletic, being goal-oriented, coming together as a team. This church is an interpersonal resource or group resource. And then there's things like the 12-step programs, like Reddit. Who's familiar with Reddit? My son crowdsources a lot on, gets information through Reddit. What about Google? That's a resource we all have access to. Well, if I should say that, that's a resource many of us have access to.
Where did you put Facebook?
I put that in the group thing too.
Yeah.
Yes, Facebook. So some other ones I added were the Red Cross, Planned Parenthood, Habitat for Humanity, the Heifer International. Locally here, there's the L's, I don't even know how to say it, so Kairos, the Immigrant Resource. I have someone who works there at the Immigrant Resource Center. St. Vincent's de Paul, Senior Citizen Centers, libraries, nonprofits, Easter seals, Toastmasters. On Wednesday I went to Toastmasters before I even had any of this ready and just threw something out there. I used it as a resource and then I got home like, ooh, I have a lunch right now because they gave me a lot of comments. Yeah. So think about how wealthy we are with internal resources and external resources. So one of the things that I see with my clients, I'm going to tap into two different things. One of the things that I see with my clients is that they either are skilled at tapping into inner resources or outer resources and sometimes becoming too dependent on one or the other. So the way that I know when my client is becoming too dependent on the inner resources is because they have this self-reliance and also like this, oh, I want to do this myself. That whole, if I don't do it myself, they've lost the trust that God is not only in them, but in everyone else. And those of my clients that lost their ability to tap inside, they say things like, I can't. I don't know how to get there from here. I need help, right? And it's okay to access help, but we want to find that balance of how do we discern when to tap into an inner resource and really pull up our strength because we have it. Our resilience. Or when do we actually, I really don't know this piece of technology and I need some help. What's a resource that I can call? Or I don't know how to fix my plumbing system and I really need a plumber. Yeah. So how do we discern that? I say that because my husband refuses to call plumbers. And he's been under all of our house and redone a lot of our pipes. So he's done great. But when do we tap into inner resources and outer resources? And one more thing I want to bring up about anxiety that I recognize a lot with my clients is when my clients are feeling anxious and full of anxiety, what I recognize is that they've projected themselves into the future without any of their resources. They've abandoned themselves while they projected themselves forward. So often I'll ask my clients when they're telling me that they're anxious about something, I'm like, set the scene for me. What do you see? And they're either like, oh, like I'm all alone in the dark and it's cold. And what's around you? I don't know, it's just dark. Well, let's start putting something around you, right? Let's see if you can find the light switch. What's inside you that you can help you see in the dark? Or another client threw out that when she was describing her anxiety, she's like, well, like I'm in the middle of the vast desert and there's 5 different roads in 5 different directions and I'm just sitting there and I don't know where to go. There's no signpost for her. Or there's no internal spidey sense, right? She lost her sense of intuition. So when I catch my clients in the future, in their display of anxiety, I ask them to go back and get your resources. You're full of resources. They're available to you. So let's take a few moments to quietly reflect on some of your resources. Maybe some of your strengths that you haven't been paying attention to that are really residing inside of you, wanting your attention. Or let's also take some quiet time to reflect on what are some of the resources to me that are available that I've just overlooked. Sound fair? So let's take a moment to tune in, get quiet. Maybe besides looking at resources, you could also reflect on, is there a time I threw myself into the future without my resources? Is there a way that I could remember to bring my resources with me next time? If you can give a word to at least one inner resource that you hadn't noticed, or is now making itself more apparent for you. Take a nice cleansing breath and gently open your eyes. Our breath is a beautiful resource. I'd like you to turn towards one of your neighbors and tell them a resource that you recognize you have. That maybe just share with them one thing from your meditation. And a resource, internal or external. So turn towards some neighbor, or find a neighbor, get up and find a neighbor if you have to get up and find one. When you're ready, you can turn your attention back, and I want you to play with me a second. I want you to do a copycat thing. So come stand up and do this. And you can say, I have more resources than I realize. I have more resources than I realize. Wow, powerful. And I choose to use I choose to use that power for myself and the betterment of my community. Thank you.
I have good resources. All he is bad. I'm free, I am unlimited. There are no chains that bind me. I am free, I am unlimited. Right now, right now. I'm free, I am unlimited. There are no chains that bind me. I am free, I am unlimited. Right now, right now. We are free, we are unlimited. There are no chains that bind us. We are free, we are unlimited. Right now, right now. We are free, we are unlimited. There are no chains that bind us. We are free, we are unlimited. Right now, right now.
Feeling all those gifts within us, let us turn around and offer our gifts to support this community. So let's come down and bless our offering. Susan Julie last week suggested feel the gratitude, you are your own blessing in what you give. A lot of times we just put our hands over the offering baskets and come back. If you want, right now, have your heart, hands over your heart, and say together, divine love as me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive.
I'm raising the dead between me and my God. No separation, no distance at all. God is right here in my heart. God is right here in my heart. God is right here in my heart. I'm raising the dead between me and my God. No separation, no distance at all. God is right here in my heart. God is right here in my heart. God is right here in my heart. I'm raising the dead. Well, I want to know you. Oh God, I'm raising the dead. I want to see you. Oh God, I'm raising the dead. I want to hear you. Oh God, I'm raising the dead. I want to feel you. Oh God, I'm raising the dead. I want to praise you. Oh God, I'm raising the dead. I want to love you. Oh God, I'm raising the dead. Between me and my God, no separation, no distance at all. God is right here in my heart. God is right here God is right here in my heart. I'm raising the bell. God is right here in my heart. God is right here in my heart. God is right here in my heart. I'm raising the bell. God is right here in my heart. God is right here in my heart. God is right here in my heart. I'm raising the bell.
Well, first of all, I want to welcome all the visitors that came today to hear Joy. Welcome, and please feel free to stay for our potluck. We got plenty. I think Jerry and I really overdid the chicken and all the other stuff, so it's plenty. We're so happy that Jean Bailey has come back to visit. We're working on slowly resurrecting WOW. Yesterday, it was just Grayson and me dancing again, but we are going to do this at least 2 Saturdays every month. And right now, because we are just trying to learn and teach and organize the class, there's no charge. You know, as we get better, we'll figure that out. But we will definitely announce in 2 weeks. 2 weeks from yesterday, we're going to do it again at 10 o'clock. And then the newsletter came. I'm writing a newsletter about twice a month, and I was talking to someone yesterday, and I want to figure out the best way to get it to you all. So if you're not receiving the newsletter and you want to, let's figure out a way. It is on Facebook. Some people don't like to do that. And then of course it's on MailChimp, which is email. But I know we get buried in emails, so I'm really trying to figure out a good way to make sure that that gets to everyone who wants it. I am working on next month. Next month, Powers of Imagination. And Tam and I are already talking. It's going to be really fun. So, and I'm working on the lineup. I don't have that quite yet. Talking to Chris Johnson, Zadie Barnes, and Susan Julia, of course, will be here. It's a 5-Sunday month. So we will let you know about that. It's going to be really a good way to kick off the summer with imagination. And I don't know if there's anyone in here who has served, but if there's anyone who has served, we certainly want to recognize you. Thank you for your service. Has anyone served in the military? Virgil. And Pam. Oh, of course, Pam. So we thank you. And in fact, our song today, instead of the peace song, is going to be My Country's Isn't, right? So we will do that. And don't forget potluck. And think of any, I think that, is there anything that I'm leaving out that anyone needs to announce? Linda?
When we circle up,
I was going to do that, yeah.
are you going to do that?
Yeah, go ahead and you keep talking.
Anyway, when we circle up, let's go around the perimeter of the room and leave space for those that aren't here, that will be here, or those that have left here and want to be here.
So, yeah.
On their way. On their way.
On their way.
You don't have to touch, but look at there. That's not so bad. All right. So let us say together, the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Yay,